Merry Christmas, everybody, and holy shit. So, Violent Night tells the story of a rich family being taken hostage on Christmas Eve, and Santa Claus being at the wrong place at the wrong time. And I'm not gonna lie, this movie kinda kicks ass. I feel like there's two very separate camps when it comes to Violent Night. You have this first group of people that heard the concept of a Die Hard movie where you replace John McClane with Santa Claus and thought,
what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
And then you have people like me who heard that idea and said, I think I might have a new favorite Christmas movie. And while it didn't quite reach that level for me, I still had a lot of fun with it. And let me start by saying, this won't be for everybody. This is a dark action comedy with a ton of over-the-top kills, gore, and profanity. This isn't a Christmas movie I would take my entire family to go see. Unless your family's awesome.
I'm awesome.
And jumping right into the positives, the biggest thing this movie has going for it is its lead man, David Harbour, as like this cynical, jaded version of Santa, who's kind of getting tired of the Christmas season. Now, he's an actor that I've always liked. Even when he's in movies that weren't great, he was always one of the highlights or one of the bright spots in an otherwise not very good movie. And he was just the perfect actor choice to play this particular role. He even brings like some of this charm to the character that I didn't expect. I just fully expected this to be a badass Santa, which he is. But he also has like the little quirks where he like touches his nose to go up chimneys. And sometimes after these moments with this little girl Trudy, or after a particularly good kill, he just has like this ho 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 belly laugh. His character was where most of the comedy came from, or at least the comedy that worked. We'll get to that. He kicked some serious ass with his sledgehammer, especially during the scene in the middle of the movie that's just basically like a 5-minute massacre. And beyond all that, he even had some great moments with this little girl named Trudy that gave this movie some real heart, which I was not expecting. The relationship between the two of them was so wholesome. And besides Santa himself, this little girl definitely stole the show.
Trudy likes to. Are you gonna help us, Santa?
Yeah, Trudy.
Santa?
You're on my nice list.
Now, as I already mentioned, Violent Night was definitely inspired by Die Hard. It just kind of played into the Christmas elements even more so. It's almost like they made this movie for all the people saying Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie, which it is, damn it. And in that vein, this is probably the best Die Hard since With a Vengeance. It also has some major Home Alone influence, with this one scene where Trudy's setting up all these booby traps, and it feels like a more realistic take on just how dead Harry and Marv would be if they went through that night with Kevin. And then finally, even though they went away from it later on in the movie, the first act gave some serious Bad Santa vibes, especially with the cold open in the bar. That's just hilarious.
You ain't driving, are you?
I steer a little, but the reindeer do most of the work.
And I have this in my positives because I feel like Violent Night handled all these references in a great way. It's like they took just enough from those other films where you can see the influence while still feeling like its own movie. It even credits them by name-dropping Home Alone multiple times throughout the movie. And even though it only mentions Die Hard once, it's in such a funny sequence where Santa's trying to find something to fight off an intruder, and he's pulling stuff out of his bag, and he's like, oh, Die Hard on Blu-ray. Beyond that, there are some genuinely good fights and action sequences, with a couple of the highlights being the barn massacre I talked about, and a snowmobile chase. Maybe a nod to Die Hard 2. This just feels a lot like an action movie ripped right out of the 80s or 90s. And I mean that in the best way possible. That's my favorite era of action. There's a ton of fun and creative kills throughout, with Christmas stars, candy canes, and one involving a chimney that is absolutely brutal. The movie definitely lives up to its name, while still somehow managing to give you some of those warm Christmas feels. It's weird. Now, when it comes to things I'm mixed on, I really only have one thing to put in this category, and that is the comedy. And while there are a ton of funny moments throughout the runtime, the problem is about 95% of the good moments are from David Harbour as Santa.
Come on. Which one of you did that? Prancer? So unprofessional.
Everybody else they try to give funny lines to either come off as annoying, cringy, or just not funny. John Leguizamo as Mr. Scrooge, he has a few good moments, and it was pretty awesome seeing Beverly D'Angelo, who most people know as Ellen Griswold from the Vacation movies.
And we're gonna have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny fucking Kaye.
Playing this shrewd businesswoman. But other than those couple standouts, the rest of the comedy just kind of flopped. And then finally, where I think this movie was truly lacking, and probably could have gotten another point from me if done correct, is really every character that isn't Santa, Trudy, or Mr. Scrooge. The problem with the bad guys is they just weren't very memorable. There was this one funny scene where they had Santa tied up, and 3 of them were trying to figure out if he was the real Santa.
What if he really is the real?
No such thing as Santa.
That was pretty good. But other than that, they felt pretty generic. The problem with the family is that other than the little girl, they're all kind of shitty people. Like Beverly D'Angelo's character is funneling money from her company. Her son is trying to steal that money from her. Her daughter is sucking up so she can take over the business. So when they try to do something like add a subplot where Trudy wants her mom and dad to get back together for the holidays, you really don't care because you don't connect with the characters. Honestly, besides Trudy and maybe her mom, all these characters could have died. It wouldn't have bothered me.
Even to a guy like me, that's cold.
But overall, I had a great time with Violent Night. It definitely delivered on the action and violence I was hoping for, but it also managed to have an emotional heartbeat between Santa and Trudy, somehow making this oddly feel like a Christmas movie, which I was not expecting. I think this movie has officially made it into my yearly Christmas rotation, and I'd even be okay with a sequel in a year or two. Violent Night 2, Santa Slays. Plugging this into the naughty or nice list, I'm definitely giving this a nice and a solid 6.5 out of 10. Well, that's gonna do it for my review of Violent Night. Let me know in the comments, is this a Christmas classic for you? Were you pleasantly surprised by it? Or is it a movie that you'll probably never watch again? While I have you, me and 3 friends do a weekly pop culture podcast called Culture Shocked, which you can find wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing right over here so you don't miss any future content.
Time for some season's beatings. Santa Claus is coming to town.